This is my MS story for year 13. I'm Jen DeTracey. I'm the founder of Women Thriving with MS. You're at the Women Thriving with MS channel. And even though I was diagnosed 13 years ago, give or take a couple of months, and have done a couple of MS stories in the past, the reality is that, like many of you probably, I was living with MS long before that 13 years. In fact, 5 years earlier, I had a major vertigo episode, my first and the most brutal, or one of the most brutal actually. And at that time, I was not diagnosed with MS. I was in a small hospital. They put a drip into me with some kind of medication for a couple of days, and I felt better. I went home. I still had vertigo. And I realized that it was the medication they'd given me that made me feel better. I couldn't drive at that point in time. I had blurred vision. And that was the indicator that was not diagnosed. However, honestly, I'm glad that I didn't know about my diagnosis at that time. I don't think I would have been emotionally equipped to deal with it. I don't think anybody's ever emotionally equipped to deal with their MS diagnosis, honestly. What I'd like to share with you today specifically is where I'm at now, a little bit of my journey in this MS story since I shot a video last. And I haven't been like some people that have created an MS story every year consistently over time. This year I felt it was really important, particularly because this year in some ways was an emotionally challenging year for me, because I had personal stuff that I was working through, and I believe that the top floor, the MS is impacted by our roller coaster of emotions that we experience and the stress that we feel. So, of course, that's going to make it in some ways for a challenging year. So I was really curious last month when I received my report and sat down with my neurologist to talk about it, and I hadn't seen it before the scan. I had to wait till my appointment to get the information. I was curious about what the outcome would be. I was confident that it looked promising, but because I'd had many bouts of vertigo over this year, I was like, is there something there that I should be concerned about? You know, do you ever feel that way? Like you want to go in optimistic, you want to go in feeling good, but there's just a little bit of worry or a little bit of doubt that might be there. And then there's, of course, before that, there's going to your MRI. And if you are not an expert at having MRIs for MS, check up above. I've got a video you must watch. I have mastered the MRI. So let me tell you, when I sat down with my neurologist and I said, okay, I'm ready for my report. And he had difficulties getting access to it. You know, sometimes doctors work remotely in different offices and they have to pull stuff up, and the technology is a little tricky. And finally he pulled up and he probably just read the bottom line, the summary. Yeah, everything's good, you're stable. I'm like, yes. I felt good because it's consistent with where I've been. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have MS symptoms. And this is something that I learned from this particular neurologist. There's a difference between a relapse and a symptom, which sounds obvious, right? It really does. However, I at one point thought when I had vertigo happening to me randomly for chunks of time, what can I say? I was active in the MS, or that there was progression, and it's not true. And that was creating a big fear in me, a big worry in me. And once I knew that, it really helped calm my nervous system. It doesn't mean that the vertigo is pleasant or fun, that I'm having a good party time. No siree. It just means that it's a symptom, an annoying symptom that may be there for a while and then eventually disappear, which is what's happened many times this year. Knowing that information has empowered me to feel better about where I'm at living with multiple sclerosis. I can say that probably at this point in time, it has been at least 7 years since I haven't had MS progression. That's the big 7, right? Out of 13. That is pretty good. It validates for me, just for me personally, we're all at a different place. You may not be at the same place as me, and I want to acknowledge that this journey can be brutal. It can be hard. It can be unpredictable, especially with progression and all of the impact it can have on your life. I want to say that. For myself, as I get older, I'm a menopausal woman. I'm dealing with more sort of aches and pains in my body. I'm not sleeping as well as I used to because of that. So I have just everyday varieties of challenges on top of living with layers of fatigue with MS. And I'm okay about that because I know that that is part of life. Some days I'm a little grumpy. But if you watch my other videos, you know that I have a morning routine I do, and I follow certain diet protocols for the most part, and I'm living a good life. And so even though things can be hard at times for me, if I push myself and then have a day or two where I struggle afterwards, I know that that's part of my life. In fact, what I noticed that has really changed for me is that it used to be I could push myself for a day, and then maybe it took me a day, 2 days to recover from that, where I wasn't feeling so great, but I was grateful because I made the choice and I had a great time and it was worth it. Now it seems like it might be 4 days, like it's doubled. And I think that's just age and my body, really. So no matter what your age is, you might want to notice that and track it either mentally or write it down and just see what those changes are. Old people, as they age, change. So add to that the layer of MS, and I'm curious to know what that might be for you. Write your comments in the chat below if you'd like to. The other thing that I noticed maybe a year or two ago was that on my MRI, it hadn't been flagged or I hadn't read about it before in the report, but it said that I did have optic neuritis in this eye, which is my right eye. I don't know how you're seeing it in the camera. In regards to my optometrist that did the testing for me over the last couple of years, is not per se an MS specialist, but she does test eyes with a lot of people with MS, and that's why I continue to go see her. She said that eye will never completely recover and can't be corrected. And I got thinking about that and talking to her about that. And it was about a year ago or so, maybe 2 years. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And she said to me, yeah, you've got something going on there. And then when I read the MRI that said I had optic neuritis, I knew it was from a long time ago. I knew it was from the relapse I had right before I ended up in the hospital and was officially diagnosed back 13 years ago. And that was something that was never flagged, never told to me all those years. It's only been in the last couple of years that I've been putting those pieces together. And I'm okay about that. I can still see out of that eye. It's just not as good as it used to be. So I have to say I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for my health as stable as it is right now. And you could be doing all the stuff that I'm doing around care, and your situation could be different, right? You could have progression happen. You might choose to be on preventative medication, and you might notice that things are still progressing. For me, I started Mavenclad this year. It was my year 2 of Mavenclad. There's tons of videos about that. You can check out my playlist for year 1 and technically year 2, which I did 3 years later. And what I found that was interesting so far this year, and I need to get some blood work done, so I won't get into the details because I'll do another video on that when the time comes. The fatigue stayed longer this time round. Last time round, it really popped and it was worse, and I felt like I was moving through molasses. And this time that didn't happen in the same way, but it's still with me. It feels a little less than it did a couple months ago, but it's a slow haul. And that has been hard. That's been hard for me on top of the regular everyday fatigue. But I know that it will fade, continue to fade a bit over time, and then my energy will start to percolate upward. So that's really all I want to say today about my MS story. I'm so glad that I get to do that this year in 2023 at the age of 57, living with MS for 13 years diagnosed. And I hope that you watch some of my other videos. You can go back and search for my other MS stories if you want. I'm cheering you on from the sidelines. If you haven't had a chance to go to the Women Thriving with MS website and you want to check that out, there's a few freebies there for you. And all of the programs that I have developed, mini courses and courses, they are all sliding scale. So if you want something really impactful that you can learn from me and my experience and my knowledge about to help live better with MS, go check them out because I did them for you. All right, I'll see you soon. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to do that. Like, comment. I love the comments. You know I respond to you when you comment. I appreciate you, and we will see you soon. Bye.